What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 96, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by two good friends and co-hosts, Raffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Earlier this week, I put my tryhard pants back on and got a day one legend with a 10-star bonus, which was, with the classic Raffle throwback. And then I spent the mini set release waiting in queue for over and over, and I immediately regretted it. But yeah, never doing that again. But it was fun while it lasted, I guess.
It was strange. I saw Ruffle had already done his decline. I hadn't played a single game. Ruffle was like top 20 legend or something. I was like, my god, what a throwback. But no, I'm good. Happy to be able to talk everything over with you guys about the mini set launch. I have some feelings about it, so we'll dive in.
Wait, before we dive into it, important thing here. So Raffle, for a short moment there, was the best player on the podcast, was the only one of us that was in Legend, and yet I was somehow the only one that got trashed on Twitter for it. Why weren't you adding Corb?
I wasn't adding anybody. You can ask Ogre about that one. I don't know.
That's true.
I take no responsibility for that.
Now it's actually a little bit of a personal attack. I thought Corb was at least Legend already, but damn.
No, it's just on you, Meowth.
Ouch. That hurts my feelings. I'm gonna cry live on podcast. But before I start balling on podcast, let's talk about the new mini set. So I don't even know what the name of the mini set is. Something. Change of
Throne
Tides.
of the Tides.
There you go. Throne of the Tides. Trust Raffle, famous content creator, to know the answer to that. Released on Wednesday. And so we are currently recording on Monday night. So it's been 5 days. And let's just talk about the big elephant in the room. Let's talk about Big Shaman. So
Nice pun.
Thank you. Tried hard on that one, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think just the release of this one new card, people were like, damn, that'd be really good in Big Shaman. And kind of just that one card, we're talking about the new Colossal Minion Neptulon, has revitalized interest in this class, and some really quick refinement. And it is everywhere on ladder, and it looks really, really good. The win rates look pretty strong. And so the main reason that this deck is seeing a lot of success is the ability to cheat out these huge Colossus minions on turn 1 or 2, in combination with stuff like Lightning Bloom and Muck Morphers or Ancestress Calls. It is making waves in the format. And what are y'all's first impressions, or good or bad, about Big Shaman?
I've been really high on Big Shaman for a while now. I feel like Neptulon is the reason that people started playing it and maybe refining it a little bit, but like a single card that you get maybe 20% of the time isn't going to give like that massive a jump in win rate. And obviously Neptulon early is absolutely disgusting because it's 24 damage as early as turn 2. Like 24 damage and a board clear as early as turn 2 or 3. It's really gross with like Reincarnate and Ancestral Spirit or whatever that I think that's the card. To summon multiple copies, because then you get more hands that also then attack and you're dealing more than 24 damage. So like it's a really disgusting card, but like the deck already got pretty good with like Glug was already a good addition to the deck. I think the deck was good going into this, and then people just saw a shiny new Colossal Minion and decided to start playing it again because if you get a Yashara into Scrapyard Colossus on turn 1, is that real? Like the difference between the minion quality that you're getting with like, Scrapyard, Glug even, or Neptulon, if they can't remove the big minion that you put down in play, or if you can like create multiple copies of it with the Reincarnate shenanigans, does it really matter if it's Neptulon or not? Like I feel like, yes, that card is nuts in the deck, but it's not the sole reason the deck is good. I think people were just kind of sleeping on it to begin with, and then people started playing it.
Yeah, I think that's mostly true. Like, I definitely agree that Big Shaman probably wasn't given enough attention, and then like Rebel said, like refinement was a huge part here. That said, like I know it isn't like the biggest chance, right, that you get the Neptulon, but I do think that like every minion available to Big Shaman does matter quite a lot. there is like such a dramatic difference between like Colossus of the Moon versus Neptulon. You know, like we were really bleeding for like a better option than that. And then the fact that we picked up Glug. I know Glug was not a mini set card, but that's like another really good one. So yeah, it is kind of funny where like right now, Scrapyard Colossus is like really lagging the others. Like Scrapyard Colossus is like the severe low roll. Like you want to be cutting that card, but there's nothing better. You know, it's really dramatic how we've gone from Moon being so awful, and now it's kind of like okay, now Colossus, Scrapyard Colossus is like the next bad one, which is kind of crazy because it's still absurd.
Right. I think in a world without Rogue, Pirate Rogue specifically, you probably would just cut Colossal of the Moon and maybe like throw in more proactive stuff, because there are a lot of matchups where it really does feel pretty bad to get that in, because it's relatively inconsequential without like a reincarnate to get multiple copies of it.
Yeah, and the fact that like Scrapyard is, you know, like before this it was really good, or it was seen as really good, and it is still one of the better options. It's just, I think it just shows how niche and specific the minions have to be in Big Shaman to be really, really effective, right? Like you need very specific big cards to cheat out to make it really, really worthwhile. And that's why Neptulon is such a huge upgrade, because that is exactly that. It is like the perfect Big Shaman card. And I do think that it has helped make a pretty big difference in especially in those slower matchups, right? Because like Ruffle was talking about, it's so much power. Like it's so much lethality so quickly.
And it scales like the more Neptulons you get, right? Like if you go Muck Morpher into Muck Morpher, you have 2 Neptulons, and all of a sudden each one's swinging for, 16 plus the hands themselves. Like it's,
or the reincarnate, like
or yeah,
like
exactly,
that. Yeah.
So, I know, I'll push back on Ruffle here a little bit. Like I know you probably agree with us at this point, but like it is, I think, was a huge upgrade for the deck, and it's miles above everything else. Minion wise,
no, I'm not disputing that, but I like, it's not the sole reason the deck is performing well. I think the deck was performing well. People were just not playing it. Like it is a standalone answer, in my opinion, to just Pirate Rogue. Like it just beats Pirate Rogue because like you have the taunts on turn 2 or 3. Like it's an absurd deck, and like honestly, Neptulon is good into that, but like in that matchup, like the minions that you already had, like Glug is really good into Pirate Rogue, just because it scales so well. You reincarnate the Glug and you get more taunts, and you reincarnate a big minion and you get more damage with Glug. Like the Glug reincarnate shenanigans are already doing well with it, and then you bring Neptulon into the mix, which scales equally well with reincarnate into the slower matchups, and like the deck's absurd. My point wasn't that like Neptulon didn't make it better. It's just that like I feel like people are overestimating how much better Neptulon made it when it was already a very good deck, is all I was getting at.
Fair enough. Sorry for misunderstanding. But Big Shaman, I think we need to say, does look like one of the best decks in the format, right? Maybe because of exactly what you were mentioning, though, that matchup into Pirate Rogue being so good. And I don't know, all these, big players, right? They loved big priests. They love cheating out big minions early in the game. You're kind of glad for them, right? That there's finally a big deck that's back in the meta that they enjoy playing. And so let's hop on to a couple of other decks here that have gotten some touches. Let's move on to another Shaman deck, though. Let's talk about Murloc Shaman. So Murloc Shaman, the big new card, the big new shiny toy they got was Clownfish. So this was the 3-mana 3/2. Your next Murlocs cost 2 less, and you could bank the mana on those. And it actually has looked really, really good. I hit Legend this month with Murloc Shaman, going 15-3 with the deck. And it looks like it's held a pretty steady win rate. Taking a look at HS Replay. And I'm actually, with Clownfish and that discount, it's allowing you to run stuff like Gorlock Ravager instead of Ice Fishing. Just giving you another, like a Murloc that draws you cards that can be discounted. And it's kind of led us to make some tough cuts. I know I cut Murloc Tidecaller. I know Corb in his version of the deck was cutting Murloc Warleader, which kind of sounds blasphemous in a aggressive Murloc deck, but that's where we're at. I think the deck still has a little bit of refinement to go, but it does look like Murloc Shaman is back. It's not making as big of a splash as Big Shaman might be, but it does look like it's a lot better than it used to be.
Making a splash. You're 2 for 2 on these puns right now, Meow.
Yeah.
I don't think you could sneak that one by me. Yeah, I took your list for a spin. I did not miss the, what is it, Tide Caller at all. Like I feel like the other two 1-drops just work so well with Lushwater Scout that they're mandatory, so they weren't getting cut. I didn't feel like I was missing turn 1 enough to matter. The deck really seemed to hinge on drawing Clownfish or not. But one of the best parts about the deck is the first of all the amount of draw for Gorlock from Gorlock Ravager, but the fact that it has a Flurgle and just a Toxfin. Like Toxfin is really good into Big Shaman, and one of the only ways you can actually clear their ridiculous board. So I farmed poor Martian by just like hard mulling for those two cards against Shaman and holding back a lot of resources until I could clear their board, and then just you know, beating the Big Shaman like that. Like I was just farming Big Shaman when I was playing that deck because everybody started catching on by the time I was playing Murloc Shaman, and it was just a hunt for the Toxfin. And outside of that matchup, though, like Clownfish is just the nuts. Like that is the quality of card that can revive an archetype for sure, because that is so much mana cheat on top of things like Everyfin is awesome. The synergy that it has with that in just like vomiting your hand into play, which they're Murloc, so it reduces the cost of your Everyfin, is quite strong.
Yeah, Call to Arms good. Murloc Call to Arms, you know, about as good as we anticipated. I think we were all like super high on it, and then yeah, I mean it was a pretty easy card to evaluate, right? Mana cheat strong. I think that Murloc Shaman probably isn't going to catch on too much, I think. Like, I think that even with Clownfish being as strong as it is, I do think that the Murloc deck is going to lag a little bit. But it does seem like a good Shaman counter, I think. Like, I think Ruffle's totally spot on with that. Like, it is so much early pressure, and that Toxfin is super strong. I do worry about its matchups into some other aggressive decks. And, yeah, like, the card quality, though, itself is nuts. like Meowth was talking about making hard cuts. It was first, like, the easy cut was Rockpool, which kind of had me going, oh god, like that's the easy cut. And then you know, and then after that it was like, okay, it's gonna be one of Tidecaller, Nothing Can Stop Us, and War Leader. And like, you know, you guys said Tidecaller was the move. I personally cut War Leader, but it's kind of pretty funny, right? We're in a world, you know, 2022, we're playing Murloc decks, and I'm kind of like, I think I cut the War Leader. So
I might be inclined to go with the no-fin myself, because they're, you know, you can pay 0 mana for that card. So why would I pay 3 mana for it? It was kind of where my head was at. So I think that like any one of those is a tough cut, but like one of them has to go.
Yeah, I will say, be warned. Like Corb said, I farmed Big Shamans on my climb. I lost every game against Pirate Rogue. That matchup does not feel particularly close. Even with like turn 2 Call to Arms into like turn 3 buff, like they're just so efficient at clearing your minions.
I think you just need Flurgle. Like if you don't have Flurgle, that matchup.
Like even with Flurgle, I went like turn 2 Clownfish, Flurgle, clear their board like with the second Murloc, and I still just got absolutely blown out.
Yeah, if they have any brain at all, they'll just trade into your Murlocs, and you'll never be able to stick a board, and like they're going to just be able to outpressure you. Like, and like your only hope is a Lushwater Scout, but that doesn't stick for a turn because the weapon just kills it. So like, you know, my Twitch chat was losing their minds because like these rogues kept trading. I'm like, they're winning the game because of that. They're winning. What do you want from them? Like it's face deck don't always go face. Like sometimes, you know, when you're in an aggro mirror, you need to have a board presence, or you're not going to be able to keep up in damage.
Yeah, I actually didn't queue in any mech decks, but I figure that matchup is weird, right? I guess Mech Mage with Mecha Shark maybe gets there. But
Bubblebot wrecks you, I'm sure. Like, unless you already have a board established into it.
You go Flurgle into Murloc into Toxin, easy. Just always draw that.
Yeah,
always.
just always have all the answers.
Just always have it.
It's
Yeah. So I'm excited that the fish are back. I don't think if the dust settles that they're going to be like a very, very strong dominant deck, but it is nice to see them back, especially like, I don't know, I'll always have a fondness for Murlocs, even if they're not the most exciting tribe and deck to people. I still have a soft place for them in my heart. So I enjoy the deck. It's back. Clownfish is a good card. Can confirm. All right. Let's talk about one last good deck here before we hop into a whole new class. that has like 4 or 5 new decks. Let's talk about Maly Druid. So basically, we're talking about Moonbeam reviving this archetype here. So there's been a variety of Maly decks that have popped up. I know I've seen some Alignment Malygos decks. I've seen some Kael Malygos decks. I've seen some Dragon Malygos decks running Breath of Dreams. I've also just seen some like pure Malygos decks that are just like the Cthulhu Druid shell of old, like Control Druid. But you just run Maly as your win con alongside Moonbeams and Moonfires and stuff like that. I mean, it's just exactly kind of what we expected, right? Moonbeam plus Maly equals good. It kind of feels like a card that they were like, yeah, this is an interesting card. It'll push an archetype in Wild. And it's kind of just done exactly that. So how are we feeling about Malygos Druid? Basically, I'm thinking about like in comparison to all of the other Druid decks that we have at our disposal. Why are you guys excited about Maly outside of just new?
I'm excited about it because it feels like the smallest investment you have to make in a win condition in Druid so that you can run better cards in your deck. Like I was just running Malygos, Moonfire, Moonbeam, which can be used as removal against Rogue and is relatively efficient in those matchups, as well as like a Kael'thas package with UI to get those through if necessary. But like there's no need for Aviana. There's no need for Goon. It doesn't feel like alignment really is necessary either. You can just run hard control Druid Shell plus those handful of cards, and you don't have to like worry about churning through your deck like Cthulhu. You have, not great redundancy into Rat, though I did get a turn 2 Malygos ratted out. Or no, maybe it was a turn 2 Ancestor's Call. But like, yeah, the deck seems strong. Moonbeam in particular is just very good. You don't need to do any copy shenanigans. Just play Malygos as a plus the spells, and I think you're fine. Like it seems pretty good. But I don't know how it compares into the other archetypes yet. But the upside is that you have to commit less slots in your deck to it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the Kael version's really fun to play. All those like the cheap little like Moonfire and Moonbeam are obviously kind of fuel for the Kael. That kind of just like gives a lot of redundancy to that, makes the whole deck feel just really nice. So I like playing that. But I also think this, like Meow said, the pure like dragon deck, sort of even like throwing it in like Kazakhstan stuff. Like I think the Druid, no matter what you're doing, I think that it's pretty much all competitive. Like it's all fine. So you can take it in a whole bunch of different directions, and I think you'll be A-okay. But yeah, personally, I really like that Kael version a lot.
Yeah, as long as you have Oaken Summons, Twig Sphere, and Guff, you're good to go.
Fine,
right?
Whatever you're playing me out, I always have Twig Sphere and Guff.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like this mini set with Murloc Shaman and Maly Druid. I was like, man, these are throwbacks to decks and archetypes that I really enjoyed from like the beginning of WoW that were getting this like little push. So I really enjoyed playing those 2 decks. But I agree with you. I think the Kael versions might not be the best, but I think it lends itself towards the Moonbeam and Moonfire inclusions the best, just because like you mentioned the Kael fuel. And I don't know, every time you do a Kael turn, you just get to puke a little bit about how gross that is, and the fact that they nerfed it all the way down to the unnerfed version, or reverted it all the way to the unnerfed version to begin with, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, plenty of Druid decks, plenty of Druid archetypes. Maly Druid now just another one of those. All right, so let's move into to Paladin here, and let's do a check. When we did our card review last week, we were talking about hyping up this Dark Glare Paladin, right, with the new Myrmidon, Holy Mackie roll, some Arcane Giants and stuff like that. Ruffle, I think you had probably the best success out of those, or out of the 3 of us with that. At least you were the first one to post your list with some good results. So you want to talk us through some Dark Glare Paladin?
I mean, I played it a lot. I wouldn't say that I had great results until like the end, when I started actually like finding some good cards in. Surprisingly, small time recruits was the juice that deck needed in order to get online, because the 3 important cards in your deck are the Libram Reducer later, Broom, and Knight of Anointment. Because with those 3, you draw and reduce your Librams. But then you can use the brooms on those minions to propagate the spells or the Librams themselves and actually get your deck online. So nothing matters but drawing those cards, and that's why like 2 copies of Christology, 2 copies of Small Time Recruits for 6 minions that you're going to hit off of them is, in my opinion, absolutely worth, because you also run Stonehearth Vindicator to draw the Small Time Recruits, and a 0 mana Small Time Recruits is obscene if you're drawing 3 off of it. So once I figured that out, the deck started performing significantly better. But it's not like Dark Moon Race's Dark Glare Warlock by any means. It's not a strong deck, but it's really fun. It feels really rewarding to play. I was able to set up a turn 10 where it was just Myrmidon into 7 Holy Pocket rolls, and I drew the rest of my deck and just like had a ton of fun. So it's a really sweet deck, but the draws are pretty feast of famine, and like there's still a lot of refinement necessary because early builds were a struggle. And yeah, like I don't know that the deck is top tier by any means, but like there's a lot of potential for Light Ray in general. Like it was easier than I thought, and maybe just in general to get that card online, and see him playing in standard as well. And I think it's just like a card to watch out for in Paladin just moving forward, because Paladin wants to play a lot of Paladin cards generally, and like class cards are inherently stronger than neutral cards, so you're kind of incentivized to play class cards as they get printed, and so there's some potential there.
Yeah, definitely. Light Ray already looking like super strong in Holy Paladin in standard. Totally agree. Like whether you're playing aggro Paladin or even like Handbuff, I think that Light Ray is something to constantly have in mind. Like, can I build around this? Can I lower my curve? Can I have enough draw? Can I play enough class cards? Because 0 mana 5/5 is good, and it does seem to come down pretty fast. I had a really good time when I was casting Swaguar. He held a tournament, and one of the people that made it like deep in the tournament had, I believe it was your list, Ruffle, the Light Glare, or whatever you want to call it, the Giant's Paladin. It was very, very fun to cast that because I hadn't really played it too much, but just like watching it play out was very, very cool. I think it's probably not great. I had a game earlier yesterday where I was playing Quest Mage against Librams. And I went out and I missed my mulligan at my first 3 turns. And I still won the game. And I was like, that's not good. That's not a good sign for Libram.
See, that's Librams and not Giants, okay? Because I can confirm Librams suck. Giants Paladin might not.
Even this deck does take quite some time to get online, right? Because you still have to cast 9 spells, right? Like 9 spells for a light ray and 12 for an arcane giant. So yeah, it takes some effort to get it online. It's not, you're practically AFK for the first 4 turns, but like you just happen to be there playing cards. It's how it works out.
Yeah, the story of every like Libram Paladin ever. Unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I played some Libram Paladin myself. Like, I was super hyped for this class. Like, that's all I played. And it turns out Libram Paladin not very good against Big Shaman, because you just get all your stuff, like, devolved, or as that's just called, and you're just, like, dead. But I do like the small-time recruit shout. Like, I wasn't playing that in my Giants list, but, like, thinking about it, like, it makes total sense. And it honestly might even make sense in, like, a Libram Paladin shell. I was playing, like, a kind of a control-y list with, like, pyros and stuff to try to hedge against Pirate Rogue. But all I can say is my build didn't work. Might still have some success or some room to explore. But I will say, like, the one other Paladin deck that I was playing that had a lot of success was actually just like Handbuff Paladin with the light rays. Because like we've alluded to, Handbuff Paladin runs a bunch of neutral, or it doesn't run a whole bunch of neutral cards anyways, right? Like it runs Smite maybe, and maybe like a Loatheb, and like the rest of it are, I guess, Crab Riders.
Crab Rider, Samuro, Broomstick. But that's about it.
So you run like 5 or 6 neutral minions, right? So in general, especially in the early game when you're drawing your deck a ton, like you're playing Christologies, you're playing Knight of Anointments, you're playing Hand of Adults, or you're playing whatever, right? Alliance Mans, the 2-mana 1/1 buffs. Like you're playing a bunch of Paladin cards. And so even then you're like playing this 2 mana 7/7 with taunt, like 1 mana 8/8 with taunt. So it's actually pretty good. Handbuff Paladin, again, I don't know if it lines up super well into Big Shaman, because there's this card called Devolve, which really kind of sucks. But Light Ray, I think the moral of this story, Light Ray, good. It's a card worth building around. Strong card.
I was just thinking about small time recruits in the Handbuff Paladin. Like, can you push the curve low enough and stuff like that? And but then I just remembered, like, man, first day of school, that was a Hearthstone card, wasn't it? It's like 1 mana get
back.
3 bundles.
Give it back.
Yeah, I regret actually a lot of my my first day of school. Naysaying. I think we should have had it back in hindsight.
No,
There's a lot of Paladin cards we should have had back in hindsight. Let's be real.
Yeah. Right. I think hand's fine where it is, but yeah, even that.
The solution to ratcheting up the power level isn't to further ratchet up the power level. What are you talking?
I mean, if you're gonna give
about?
everybody else everything back, why can't Paladin and aggressive decks get things back? Anyway,
yeah, just give Kael'thas back. Just give all the way back again. Just give Elucia back.
They gave us Kael'thas back, but they didn't give us anything else. That's the thing. That's the part.
And what a great idea that was, right?
But like, give it back and then nerf it again if we need to. All right, that's the thing. All right, we're going down a hill or a road. Probably shouldn't on today's episode. All right, Ruffle, I know you had one other Paladin deck that you did want to talk about. I have never seen this deck played, so I'm going to let you do the little intro on it.
Okay. Well, I mean, Big Shaman exists, and, you got to fight big with big. So sticking with Paladin, you play Big Paladin. Like, Neptulon is really good off of Muckmorpher or Ancestor's Call. It's even better off of Duel. Because what happens when you duel a Neptulon is, well, the first time it crashes your game, because that's what happened to me. But every time after that, when you duel into Neptulon automatically wins the duel because the hands immediately attack and kill whatever it duels out. Then you can attack again with your Neptulon and kill whatever else is on the opponent's board. Then you have that 24 damage ready to go for the next turn. If they happen to clear it, you've got Redemption. It brings it back as well as 2 more hands, and boom, the opponent's dead next turn. So, like, it's not a consistent deck because you still have to draw the duels, and I was really good at drawing all of my minions before I hit any duel or any prismatic lens. I would not recommend doing that. But, like, I actually started settling into decent draws in the back half of it, and I ended up with, like, a 60% win rate with the deck, and a pretty reasonable matchup into Big Shaman, like, unironically, because the thing about Big Shaman is that they do run out of resources eventually, right? Like, especially with Yashara pulling the minions out of their deck, like, if you can clear those, they run out. Like, they Ancestor's Call instead of Eureka, they kind of fizzle out at a certain point. So, take them to the late game with Kael, and should be not too bad of a matchup. You just out high roll them, and if that fails, then you have like better removal than them and better longevity. So it's an okay deck. Like, the real sweet thing is just getting the Neptulon off the duel. If you can do that just once, it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I've been seeing a bit of Big Paladin. Because I was thinking a lot about the other big decks with Neptulon. Like, I was kind of going through the collection looking like, how do I recruit stuff? Because I was looking at Warrior, but I think Paladin probably makes the most sense. Because I think with Lens and Duel, it's probably about the next fastest that I could see. Druid does have Bloom, but they're very limited. They can kind of only cheat out like Beast with the Dude, what is that 6 mana spell? Like, summon a beast from your hand, give it Rush or something. Like, that's an old, like, Stampeding Roar, I think. Is what it used to be called. Yeah, but there's it's very limited. So I think Paladin has a lot of options, and I think it's a real deck. Like, I've played against it a few times. I think just looking at the list, it looks very real to me. And so let's add another big deck to the format. Hell yeah, let's do it.
I mean, at worst, it's a deck with Kael in it, so like that
exactly,
that has some potential in and of itself. I was having an atrocious run at the beginning, and like I was surprised to check my stats and find out that I had a 60% win rate after it, because like, I was having a really rough time when I first started playing it, and then the back half was just a breeze, and like it runs a quality city tax, like that's not nothing. It has better layered threats because of things like Redemption. Like Redemption kind of stands in for the reincarnate of Big Shaman. The thing is, it has a little bit less redundancy, right? Because you have one set of fewer minion sheets because Shaman has Ancestor's Call, Eureka, and Muckmorpher. It only has Lens and Duel, but like those are pretty good. With the Duel, if you can remove a threat before it ever gets to do anything, like that's a big win against Big Shaman because again they do have limited threats because they want to run a narrow set of minions to like make sure that they get the Neptulon when they need it or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, it's pretty gross.
God. Another big deck. I don't know if I want this, but it sounded like it's real.
It plays a lot more honestly than Big Shaman because it's not like you still have to wait until turn 5 at the earliest to get your minion sheet, right? Because even with the Prismatic Lens, you're only running 1 mana spells, so it'll still have to wait until the following turn to be able to get that out turn 4 with the coin, I suppose. But like the lack of redundancy and the speed that it gets online, it feels a lot more honest than Big Shaman for sure.
And last but not least, we do have one last archetype / deck to talk about here. And this is the Egg Rogue. I promised Ruffle that I would get some screenshots of summoning 16/16 worth of stats on turn 3 or 4, and then still dying to Pirate Rogue, and that's exactly what happened. I think the deck is very close, at least the builds that I had, where you are cheating out a lot of stats really quickly, but somehow that's still too fair for what's going on right now, where you have Pirate Rogues, or like you're summoning 16/16 worth of stats, but then they're kind of killing you on turn 4 or 5. And then Big Shamans are doing the 16/16 worth of stats on turn 1 or 2. So it feels like it's a little too slow for what's going on, but I do think there's a lot of potential there. I know the player who actually took down and won Swag's tourney over the weekend was actually playing just like a Death Rattle Rogue with Cobalt Illusionist and... God, I'm not even going to know the name of this. The 5-mana 1/1 that summons a 7/8 taunt or 5/8 taunt.
Bladed something? I don't know. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. It's the 1/1 Death Rattle that summons a 7/8 or 5/8 taunt. And then Neptulon. And it's like, instead of eggs, they were going a little bit more high rolly with the Neptulon, which actually makes a lot more sense, right? Because the Neptulon only sells Rush or you're summoning taunts. But I think it's also like the deck is currently bugged right now, where the 1/3 it says like if your next Death Rattle minion costs 1 less, but immediately dies, but it's currently popping the weapon as well. Which means you can't really go for like a setup turn, which is a little bit unfortunate right now. So I think it'll get better once that bug is fixed. But in general, I think it's one of those decks that like it has potential. It's a lot better than it used to be, but it's still like I don't think very good. Right? It's one of those. Put it back on the shelf. Come back when he gets another new card, and we'll look at it again. But I just wanted to give my update on that.
Burning Blade Acolyte is the card.
I'm not going to remember that.
That's okay. Nobody is. Yeah, that's a kind of unfortunate interaction with the weapon, and for that type of deck, feels pretty bad because the 1/3 elemental, the card that we're talking about that makes these even remotely playable, specifically says the next Death Rattle minion that you play. So it is obviously bugged, and hopefully we'll get sorted out because I think the weapon's also in Arena right now, so that's more incentive for them to fix it because that's another low population game mode. But when you mash those two low population game modes together, you still have a low population set of game modes. But but that's more people that it's upsetting, so maybe it'll be a higher priority. Like bug triage is about fixing the things that affect the most people first, and so hopefully that's on the list.
But I did need to make sure that I got my update in there and say you were exactly right as to what would happen to me with that egg rig. But
I mean, you knew that was going to be true too, though, but you were going to play it in spite of that.
I was really hoping it wasn't going to be. Like, it did gross things. It's just everybody else was doing even more gross things. And it's kind of crazy, man. Turn 3 or turn 4, like 16/16 worth of stats or 20/20 worth of stats being too slow for the format.
Too slow.
It's so gross, dude. It's so gross.
The problem is, and this isn't new for Wild, but like vomiting stats just isn't a viable like strategy anymore. You need those to have some sort of immediate impact on the board. So like just throwing out
a lot of stats, like a lot, like max, right? Like cheating the curve slightly isn't enough.
Right, but like even with mechs, like Hunter has mechs, like Hunter has decent
Yeah.
mechs. Like a lot of the like the reason why Mech Mage is so good is because Mecha Shark has an immediate impact on the board. The reason why Mech Paladin is so good is because like Bubblebot has an immediate impact on the board,
Oh,
even if
I,
it's
th I thought you were gonna say two mana draw 3.5. That
well,
was White Deck Paladin.
yes, but like you still have to draw into something, right? Like yeah, the yeah, I think the way people are building it now, it's probably closer to 2 mana draw 4.5. Like I think people are really just cutting it down to like 26 mechs plus Stonehearth Vindicator and Radar Detector, which that makes sense when you have a card that powerful. But like those, the mechs that Paladin does end up playing end up having an immediate impact, or like you can strap on a magnetic minion to make it trade down into the board, or just spike a bubble bot and stop the opponent in their tracks. So like, just dumping stats is not a recipe for success in Wild anymore, and it's kind of been that way for a while, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like
Which is
even
kind of
pirates,
unfortunate because it's a lot of stats really early in the game. But
I know, but like
yeah,
even if you think about pirates, yeah, they dump a lot of stats, but first of all, those stats go face along with a weapon that goes face really well. But like, there's a reason why ship's cannon is so good, is because like it does something immediately with those stats, especially in an aggro mirror into the board, and that's devastating for preventing your opponent from developing more stats. So
no, completely fair. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's sad that
yeah,
2020 worth of stats wasn't good enough to
I
win
know,
a
but
Hearthstone.
again, that's kind of what Wild's been for a while, and I
For
don't know,
better or
that's just
worse,
the
right?
format. Yeah,
For
that's
better
the
or worse.
format we play.
Yeah. All right. And last but not least, I know I said that about Death Rattle Aggro, but we do need to do a check-in here on the card that was supposedly supposed to destroy control and combo in our format. I want to talk about the one, the only, Immolate.
Oh my god, I
um,
hate this card. Wow,
you
this
hate this
card's been
card.
destroying me.
Has anybody actually seen this card played? I'm really like I've seen screenshots of the like animation that it gives the cards, which is actually like super sweet. I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys have seen it. Like it actually
No,
makes the cards look sweet, but
I have. I've actually had it played against me, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to dump my hand. And before they got burned or whatever it is, but that was only because the opponent hero exploded, and like I I didn't have time to do it because they spent 4 mana passing their turn. Um, yeah, it's the card is having the impact that I expected it to, um, which is none at all. Like I think it maybe help. I don't know. I think I saw Otters running it in Reno Lock, and maybe you could make an argument for that, just because like Big Shaman exists, right? And if you're able to remove the stuff that they cheat out with Eureka and Ancestor's Call, you could then theoretically burn it from hand. But like that also kind of seems ambitious. Like that's considering the best case scenario where you have to draw your one of Immolate and remove their stuff somehow before they kill you with the 24 attack Neptulon. Um, the real surprise is the 5 mana 7/7 legendary, because I also had that played against me once, and then I proceeded to play about 40 mana worth of stuff as a druid and win the game on the spot. Like I went from like over 30 health to 2 health, playing multiple UIs in the process, and just like didn't even flinch. It was a fantastic turn. The only thing that was a bummer was I spent too much of my life before I could actually get the Maly Ghost down and legitimately kill the opponent. But that card is also Omega bad. I think Warlock kind of got the shaft this time through. What was even their third card?
They had
What
like
did they?
a steal 2 health or something, like a 3
Oh
mana.
God! Oh, the
yeah,
Naga.
the 3 mana
Yeah,
4/4 kill a
Yeah,
minion.
poor Warlock. Aren't they supposed to get the broken mini set cards? What? I
I don't
Hey,
think
they
know.
learned their
I think
lesson
they
after.
maybe, yeah, they
Blizz didn't
overcorrected, it
get the
seems.
memo. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen Immolate a couple times. I did lose to it once, but I think that was more because I was playing Quest Mage and my opponent was playing like Firewatch Post, Nerubian Unraveler, Akani, like yada yada. It wasn't really the like I almost still managed to dump out like almost every card that they went for. I don't know. Immolate is so bad. Like it's so bad.
I think I overestimated this card.
Yeah,
Because
me too.
Three turns is a lot, and it's 3 turns after going into turn 4 or 5. So like you have plenty of mana open to dump those cards. And I just like when I have had it played against me, I just feel like I've had all the time in the world to just like, yeah, I'll just dump these cards, or I won't, and they weren't that useful to begin with. It's fine.
Yeah, like I thought it would be bad, like for the now, and then I was like open to the possibility of maybe there's gonna be a disruption warlock someday that uses it. Now I'm like, no, like I definitely like even that was like severely overrating it. It's completely terrible.
Yeah, I guess I do have one question here, Raffle. When you had that 5-mana 7/7 played against you, I'm assuming you were like UIing with a Kael Thos.
No.
You were just like hardcasting UIs. Never mind.
I hardcast at least 1 UI and I think 2 Miracle Grows. It just didn't matter because well, what am I not going to play those cards? I set up an easy lethal with taunts in the way. They were playing a board based deck. It was free. Like
yeah. I was gonna say like it. If you like Kael Thos, does the UI deal 1 damage to you or 10? But I guess that's moot because you have 20 mana anyways. So
right, it would be 1 though because like the mana changes on the card.
Oh, to like the health symbol.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Warlock bad, Shaman, Paladin, Druid good. I think that's the moral of the mini set here and its impact on Wild. I guess just taking a step back here as we close today's episode. I mean, just big picture. Always ask you the same question. How are you guys feeling about the mini set? Just kind of generally and its impact in Wild, given the first week that we've had.
I would say much greater impact than I expected, as well as most people expected, and still a lot of people are giving it credit for. I'm still hearing people that say that it was a complete flop and dud and it had no impact, but like, I don't know, we just talked about how many different archetypes that are seeing a resurgence as a direct result of the cards from the mini set. Like, we talked about this at the end of last episode as well. Like, we don't need another big shove forward in terms of speed in the format. And, even in spite of, like, the appearance of being a relatively weak mini set, like, it still kind of gave us that, right? Like, Big Shaman is a real deck and is real fast and a lot faster now because of the threat of Nuptial. And so something that we didn't touch on, or I didn't bring up, is that like the real help of Nuptial is it gives the deck a chance into fast control decks because it can close out the game so quickly. And so yeah, we did take a bit of a step forward in terms of speed of the format with this expansion and or mini set rather. And yeah, like that's, I don't know, we don't need more powerful cards to take us further ahead in terms of the format speed. So I think that it's right on the edge of where we want to be with a mini set. Like 35 cards shouldn't see massive disruption in the Wild format. We're already seeing a fair amount of disruption in the format, so like it's a pretty powerful mini set, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess like feelings. I feel not good. I feel really bad about the mini set. I think that I think like when the dust settles, the big change up is just going to be like Big Shaman, and then that'll have a dramatic effect on its own, right? In terms of like new archetypes, I think like things like Murloc Shaman and Handbuff, like I don't really see any of these like becoming too popular. Even if they do kind of move up a little bit, like Murloc Shaman will be playable to Legend now, maybe, but I don't think people are going to play it that much. But yeah, I think Big Shaman right now, Big Shaman's currently the most popular deck on ladder. Shaman as a class is over 30% of upper diamond and stuff, and Big Shaman is most of that. I really dislike the play pattern of Big Shaman, and I think that overall, I already wasn't feeling particularly hot about this current expansion, this current meta, and I think that like Big Shaman moving to the forefront is gonna make it dramatically worse. So personally, I'm not super happy with it, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of in the same boat, but I wonder how much of that is like the novelty factor of like it's like the good new deck of the mini set, right? And I wonder how much of it will persist, given a couple of weeks.
If it's
I
still
think...
if it's
Go
as
ahead.
strong as we think it is and people seem to think it is, it's not going anywhere, right? Like novelty is accounting for a surge in popularity, but like if it until it gets really dull to blast your opponent in the face for 24 on turn 2, which for some people will never happen. It's going to remain popular. Think about how popular Big Priest is and always has been as like a miserable failure of a deck in terms of its competitive viability. If that population of players, on top of the population of players who just wants to play the best deck, has access to a deck like Big Shaman, it's going to remain relatively popular. It's a matter of whether decks can like actually answer it. Which like if the deck stops being as successful, then those players that are just looking to play the top tier deck are going to move away from it. Whereas the players that just want to do big things and bash opponents in the face are going to remain on it. So the deck's not going anywhere either way. It's a matter of if it can sustain that, is a matter of how successful it is and if and what answers are available to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that Big Shaman, like it's currently one of the best decks, and I really don't see that changing too much. I think that when decks have this level of high roll, it's very hard to come up with like consistent counters, just because like even if you theoretically have a good matchup, like maybe you think you're playing some combo deck that can just go over the top or past the Shaman, you kind of can't go past like turn 1 Yashaj. Like that's just gonna beat pretty much anything, no matter what. And the types of decks that might also be particularly favored to Shaman are just decks that fall to the rest of the field, right? Like Reno Priest, as an example, is a deck that can probably be built in a way that's like pretty reasonable into Shaman, but it's Reno Priest, right? like you can't just like play Reno Priest and go, I don't know, 10% to Quest Mage and have a slight favorable into Big Shaman. Like the math just doesn't really break out like that. And this is a continuing thing where very passive defensive control decks are not viable in Wild for the most part. Like Reno decks can be okay, but they're never going to be like too good and stuff like that. So I think that given the high roll nature of Shaman, I don't think there can be really viable clear counters to it. I think that a lot of people like to play non-game decks, right? Like a lot of people like to play a deck that when it does its thing, it instantly wins and there's nothing the opponent can do. We've seen that repeatedly, whether it's like Switcheroo or I don't know, even like Ramp Druid, Kasaka-san Ramp Druid and Standard, or Chaotless Druid or Darkest Hour. Like people like playing these decks. They like doing their big dumb thing and instantly winning. And I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think it's just the novelty of the new deck. I think that it's very, very good. It's going to be very, very popular, and it's not going to be able to be really countered. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere, particularly in the sort of upper diamond bracket. I think it's going to be particularly popular there, even if it, high legend, people might get bored of it because of the play pattern. But really, it's sticking around, I think.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I think this brings up an interesting topic of balance and things like that, but it is week 1. I think we've agreed that we'll table this until at least week 2 and revisit how we're looking at the meta, and whether we want changes or if changes need to be made next week. But in the meantime, I hope everybody that's listening is enjoying the new mini set, and Raffle and Corb, I hope you guys are enjoying the mini set, even with the Big Shaman, fish in the room. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me week after week. Raffle and Corb, let the people know where they can find you and your content.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Raffle, and Twitter and Instagram at RaffleHS.
And you can always find me at Corbett on Twitch and Corbett Games on Twitter and Discord. And hey, even if I'm not enjoying the mini set Meowth, I always enjoy talking with both of you guys here, and enjoy you guys, dear listeners, for always tuning in as well.
Aw. All right, you guys can find me at Get Me Out on all those platforms as well. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the mini set. I hope you guys are enjoying the new decks. All the decks that we have talked about today, you can find codes for those down in the description of the episode down below. Or you can just join the Discords of both the State of Wild or any of our 3 personal Discords if you guys want to ask more specific questions about that. Appreciate you guys listening all the way to the end. Appreciate y'all. Thanks so much. And we will see you guys again next week. Later.